Hello everybody and welcome to a new video series here at Playing Board Games that's going to be featuring other content creators, other people from Playing Board Games team, and just people who, I like and think are cool and all that. And for this first episode, I'm joined by Daniel from Quick Learner, which you might not know is a great YouTuber. Yeah, I'll let you say your hello. I won't go all over that. You can say hi to everybody. Hello! So if you don't know, Daniel has an awesome YouTube channel that I'll let you talk about here for why people should go check that out if they haven't already.
Yeah, so my channel has just a bunch of cool videos about Arkham Horror, the card game, very similar to PBG stuff, but, someone else who is presenting on a lot of maybe more rules, nuances, and, I have a teaching background, so many of my videos are kind of in the teaching vein to new players and maybe reintroducing concepts that are a little bit vague to some veterans of the game too. But it's a good time. I do playthroughs as well. So if you like Justin and stuff, come check me out.
Yeah. One thing I really like that your videos do is, you do like a slide format too, which I think is just a great way of, it's one of those things it's like, because we do the same sort of thing here, and I think you do a good job of making it not feel like dry, which is why I highly recommend it too. It's like good, concise information that comes at you like just like quick and punchy, and it's very entertaining in the process because you learn so much. I check out like your rules, or like especially because you did one on like skill test timing too. Always very helpful to dive into those ones. Okay, are you ready to play this or that?
I am. I don't know what that is, but I'm ready.
So it's pretty simple. I'm going to present you. There's 5 warm-up questions, which are just nice and easy ones. And then we're going to get into 6 that are kind of like a little bit more detailed and a bit more nuanced. And all you need to decide is if you prefer this or if you prefer that. So nice and simple with that. There's going to be like, you might think, hey, these might have some like, caveats that I need to like determine, like what's this, and the answer is there really isn't none. I'm just giving you a this or a that. I'm going to ask questions, I'll let you talk, pick your brain, and you're basically going to just choose which of these 2 you would rather choose from the 2 options for your preferences for Arkham, your style of play, and your opinions on Arkham Horror the card game as a whole. So
cool. I love talking about Arkham, so I'm sure I can back up my answers with some evidence, and maybe sometimes I just have it based on feeling.
Just on feeling, hell yeah. Okay, so we have our 5 warm-up questions, 1 for each class. So I have 1 for each class here. For future videos, these are always going to be the same for every entry, because they're a good way of like kind of getting how they think, who they are, and all that kind of stuff. All right, so the first one is melee weapons or ranged weapons? This doesn't necessarily need to be in the Guardian class, but this is just like the general, like, because they have weapons and so do rogues. But like, what's your preference for these ones?
All right, so for power, probably melee weapons, but I think ranged weapons are fun. So I'm going to pick the ranged weapons, the firearms in general.
Nice, nice. Do you have a favorite firearm?
Well, so we've been recording all day. I really enjoyed playing the Chicago typewriter. It comes in with a lot of ammo, it does a bunch of damage, but I think probably the original one that kind of got me into, like, yeah, it's fun to play a big gun is the Beretta.
Yes, yeah, hell yeah. Sick. All right, next one we got here. Do you like Book v Shroud or Big Clue Combo?
Oh, that's a good question. I think I like Big Clue Combo. I do like playing cards. I like playing assets. Certainly Book v Shroud gets the job done, but it is kind of fun to be like, all right, I have the level 4 fingerprint kit, and let's just pick up all these clues, and that's cool. I think event ways of getting clues is also kind of fun too.
Yeah, it's kind of like I look at like Big Clue Combo is just like you're trying to do like big burst and not just trying to like whittle the game down. So like events definitely fall into that as well for all that. I'm also, like, people should know by now if you've seen the channel, I'm huge Book v Shroud. Like, it's my style of play, but I did some crazy things with that testing sprint or whatever it is, the one that lets you investigate. That's a fun card to build around, so
it is.
Yeah, it's a sweet one. All right, let's go to the rogue one, which is lockpicks or thieves kit.
I think I'm a thieves kit guy now. And I'm also going to say, this isn't an option, but I'm also kind of a fan of the fake credentials. So that's another cool way to get clues. But yeah, Thieves Kit, I thought, is kind of a neat addition. It's just more fun, I think, to take a test where it's not like I have a really large number. That's kind of the, tried and true way of getting clues for rogues, because it's getting you all the other succeed by stuff. But the level 3 Thieves Kit cares about you succeeding by a bunch too, and that's the one you've posted here. Getting those extra resources feels so good.
Yes, yeah, it definitely does. Yeah, like Thieves Kit Zero is basically like actually, but not actually, Rogue Dr. Milan in a way. So like that's a very nice card. All right, on to our Mystic one, which is Word of Protection or Deny Existence.
I'm going to go with the one on the other side this time. I love Ward of Protection. I think this card, certainly if you hold on to it for just like Ancient Evils, can be a little boring, but it does make you really consider, like, do I use this card now, or do I wait on something that's scarier? And I think a lot of investigators like this, and basically if they have any access to 0 to 2. Deny Existence is, obviously a good card at level 0, but the fact that its upgrade is level 5 makes me not think about it as much. But man, it does a lot of work when you play it at level 5 and get to heal instead. But I'm a big Ward Protection stan.
Hell yeah. Nice. Yeah, Travis is too. So is Bran. I'm weird. I don't play Ward of Protection anymore. I don't know why, but it's just like, I just don't. It's crazy. Because it is very good. It's a very good card. Yeah. All right, on to our Survivor one here, which is Jessica Hyde or Peter Sylvester?
Gotta go with Peter. Yeah, I have a hard time not putting him into decks. Even that +1 fight for Jessica, I feel like, while very good for a couple of investigators, I've been playing Rita recently, and I keep thinking about, okay, do I put Jessica Hyde into this deck? Is it going to help me fight a little better? And eventually I'm like, no, Peter is just better.
Yeah, he is very good.
Unfortunately.
Yeah.
I wish that, obviously Jessica's really good. I like her effect for soaking the damage as well, and she's really good with Vincent Lee, Charlie even as well. But it's funny, in Survivor, I feel like Peter Sylvester just synergizes more with the rest of the card pool.
Yeah. And the stat boosts too are just really good. Yeah. Okay. Now it's time for the main event. We have 6 questions that get a bit deeper. Some of them are some of them are surface value like those ones, but this is where we kind of get into the bigger questions. So let's go with our first one, which is a parallel Lola Hayes or a parallel Jenny Barnes. Which one do you want to see first, and why?
Okay. I haven't seen these questions before, so I have to gather my thoughts.
It is true.
Here.
Yeah, these are all first time for this. I'm not a nice host. I like to throw people into the fire.
Okay. I think my answer is going to be parallel Lola. And I know a lot of people recently have been talking about parallel Jenny. Like, we need parallel Jenny. That expectation, of course, from that last cycle was to get her. And instead we got parallel Monterey Jack, who I think is a great investigator and a really fun design. So I'm not sure what happened. Did they try parallel Jenny and said, maybe not, and kick the can down for, another set of parallel investigators? But honestly, like, I think Jenny is okay. Like, I'm not sure that I think she needs more out of the card pool rather than just a different front side or back side right now. And maybe that's the cases they thought, oh, she could do parlay stuff, and she became too similar to Alessandra. But parallel Lola, I think, to me, seems like a more interesting thing to do, because she is very much limited by her front side. So what could that parallel front side be that doesn't blow the backside totally out of the water, right? Because having 0 to 3 in every class seems, really, really good. So what do you do with the front side to make that work? And I'm excited to see if someone can come up with the answer there. I also don't think Lola is that fun to play as it is. She's definitely playable now with the Taboo. So I would give her another shot, and with a new front side or back side too, which would also be interesting to see where they would go with that.
So some questions going off of this for parallel Lola Hayes. They made me curious about, like, do you think that she would be an interesting parallel investigator if they actually kind of approached her like parallel Jim, not in the sense of complexity, but in the sense of that the idea is that you can switch you can play like more designed to be parallel front, normal back, or like normal front, parallel back. Because I think that could be interesting, right? Like an ability that is less restrictive, but like a worse deck building, or like a ability that's more restrictive, but like a worse deck building, which means that you don't have to like, it's not as open, but that actually means that you don't have to switch as much. It'd be interesting to see.
Yeah, I totally agree that would be what I want the design team to think through. Especially when it comes to the Edge of the Earth investigators, we've had that discussion about what that could look like. For Lola, this is the first time I've ever thought about this concept, so I don't have a cool idea.
Yeah,
Maybe
yeah,
you have a cool idea in mind yourself.
No, I just chose this one because they both have all threes, and they're like, I think the ones that people want the most for the parallels for these two.
Yeah. No, I can see that, especially since the Carcosa investigators would be next up. I want to see more of keeping her flavor, though, of being able to choose different roles.
Yes.
It just sucks that the front side of the card is saying, but don't do that too much.
Yes, yeah.
So maybe there would be something in her deck building that could allow her to switch roles in a different way. Maybe it's not choose 7 of 3 different things, but maybe something else to give that a little bit more spice too. So I don't know, but would love to hear other people's ideas.
Yeah. Yeah, likewise as well. If you have any comments for this while you're watching this video, you can let us know. If you have any ideas as well for like future this or that's that you want me to throw to people, definitely let me know in the comments. And also you consider subscribing to me and also Daniel and Quick Learner if you have not subscribed to either of our channels. There's a link to his channel down in the video description. All right, let's go to our next one here, which is Lone Wolf or Safeguard. And this is also coming from style of play as well, beyond just these cards. Are you a Lone Wolf or are you a stick-together style of player?
I think I am a stick-together kind of player. I actually really enjoy playing Guardians, and Safeguard level 0 or 2 is an important component of that. I also like playing Lone Wolf in the very same Investigators. Sometimes you can make that work.
Yeah.
But I think if this question is less about the cards and more of the philosophy of play, then it's definitely a Safeguard. I think it's neat to be able to do things with other investigators because you can get more synergy out of cards. I don't want to spoil anything from the run that we had together, but there are some interesting cards that allow you to think about what the other player has in their deck, and I think that makes things way more fun than just playing your own little game and expecting other people to do their own thing on their own.
Yeah, actually, I haven't even said it on the YouTube channel yet, but there is going to be, we're doing a run. We actually finished it. We finished recording it today. It's been on Twitch for a while, but we have a sealed run of Edge of the Earth coming up in August on the channel. And this video is coming out in July because we work, and it's June that we're recording this. That's just how YouTube works at playing board games. But so yeah, look forward to that. It was a great run, so I think you'll all love it. All right, next one we got here is Taboo staples to be weaker or Taboo weak cards to be stronger.
Both.
You can't do both. That's the only rule for this or that. If you have you can use like intention for the future or like what you've already seen in previous Taboo lists. Is there like if you have to choose one for your preference for what you like to see? I understand the answer for a lot of these this or that's are kind of both, but the idea is to bring it down to one. Because for me, yeah. I can also say mine too. I don't mind also doing my this or that's for this because I think it's only fair. But I want to hear from my co-host first.
I think I do have an answer that I would rather see weak cards get stronger. I think all of us already as players have a little bit of restraint at some point, or they realize that they want to practice some self-restraint with the stronger cards. But there's not really a good way to do that with the weaker cards. Like you want to try out something that seems cool, but it doesn't really do enough, right? And I mean, the Winchester is a great example of this, where I get what the original intention might have been, but they needed to taboo this to work on any tokens that have a non-negative modifier to really have it see more play in more decks. And Power Word, I've played it without the taboo. The taboo has basically made me say, maybe I'm not interested in playing this anymore. But I'd rather see them make more deck variety than just sort of tell me that some of these overpowered cards that I already know are overpowered are just a little bit weaker. Like, that's just not my style of play. I'm not trying to do all of the broken combos. I'll try it just because it is sometimes kind of fun, but I'd rather make sure that my cards are not just collecting dust.
I'm like that. I agree with you 100% on that. I also kind of believe that the cards being too powerful and complaining about that is kind of actually on the community in some aspects, because like I think they should print strong cards. I think like this is something that actually I didn't feel this for a while, but Bryn we would always talk about a card being really strong and he'd be like, but yeah, it costs 10 experience. It should be strong. Like that is 2 scenarios at least worth of experience on the newer campaigns, right? So like they should be good cards. They should be powerful if you take 10 experience, and a 10 experience power word I think should be able to win you the game. And if you do it every time and you then complain that power word's too strong, maybe don't play with power word. And
exactly. Right.
Yeah, and like the taboo weak cards to be stronger, I think every card that has been weaker to be made stronger has been an incredible taboo, right? Like I can't think of one that I think is actually a negative for the game as a whole.
Scroll of Secrets. I mean, sometimes it's one of those things where you wonder what the playtesting was like in the first place. Like I can't imagine spending an action for Scroll of Secrets 0, and it just makes more sense. There you go.
Yeah.
There's a few notable exceptions. I think I like the Mr. Rook taboo that it is now. I think it's fair to spend an action at level 0 to, search the top 9 or 12 or whatever they allow you to do. But yeah, some of the other ones, you can just decide you don't want to play with that card anymore.
Yeah, yeah. And like I also think that for some taboo, like I understand why like something like Double or Nothing was forbidden, because it just like limited design space for like the concepts of like building skills and all that. But I think like stuff like Power Word, even though I'm the anomaly who doesn't actually think like a 10 XP Power Word, it's 10 XP, I think it's pretty fair for what it does. They unfortunately like kind of just killed the card, which kind of sucks, Like, yeah.
Yeah, I wish they had figured out a different way, because they really removed a lot of things from the card and then added the willpower test.
Yeah.
So it feels very different.
Yeah.
But they saw something they didn't like, I guess, out of the community.
Yeah. Do you have this is you can take your time to think on this. I can run and I can start talking to people at home. But do you have a favorite taboo if you had to choose one? The taboo that you thought was like the most impactful for you personally? Because for me, it's probably Scroll of Secrets, because that's just a huge.
Is this weak to strong or
your choice?
anything?
Your choice. Just what's like your number one taboo you've seen?
I mean, I think exhausting Dr. Milan was.
Yep.
Thumbs up.
Yeah.
Right.
Good choice.
Again,
for that
it's one of those easy changes that he's very strong still, but I don't feel guilty about putting him into a deck.
No.
I get bored of him.
And it's also kind of cool because then you can actually reward yourself, like maybe in the run that we have, where you can like certain investigators are able to take advantage of that in other ways, like maybe like Bonnie and Dr. Milan do good together.
That's right.
Okay.
Yeah, I think the Winchester is another one on that list, but just as far as like easy things where I know people consider Rex or maybe even Dr. Milan too to be kind of pseudo erratas. And I kind of feel that way about the 35 Winchester too. It's just it feels like it's more in the spirit of the game with that change.
Yeah, definitely. I think honestly, all the taboos that made just like turning into symbol tokens was also just really nice. Like I think Voice of Ra got a really good boost from that. Just like anything that cares about that stuff was great.
Yeah, the candles suddenly become a lot more relevant.
Yeah. All right, our next one here. Ancient Evils or Frozen in Fear?
Which is scarier?
It's your answer. It's just whichever one. Which one of this? Like, yeah, if it's scarier or if it's easier, which one? I'll let you give your context to your answer.
Yeah. So Frozen in Fear is almost always awful in rogues, and I do play a lot of rogues. It can make it really challenging to figure out what you're doing with that card. Honestly, I don't think either one is that bad. So I think I'm going to give it to Frozen in Fear here, because it makes a significant number of investigators have maybe a little bit of a game plan if they know that this campaign uses this encounter set quite a bit. So that's kind of where I'm thinking there. I'm not. It's I don't mind Ancient Evils being in a scenario. I will ward it if we're getting down to the wire or something. I like it being in the encounter deck to give that extra pressure where I can't just count how many turns are left.
Yeah.
So
yeah.
I like the card. In fact, there are some variants of it that I like less, but as long as they're not comboing it with extra Doom placement in the same Mythos phase, or there's going to be a lot of reshuffles.
Yes,
the card is fine.
Yeah, yeah, yeah. I'm with you 100%. I just said that I like to do this one because it makes me. I'm a masochist, so I love when everyone on YouTube is like, Justin, what do you mean Ancient Evils isn't the scariest card? It eats so many actions. But like, one of our commenters said that Ancient Evils, you lose an action, but the game also loses an action, right? Like it's actually just across the board. With Frozen in Fear and like action loss effects, it's really not, because you're losing actions, but the game will still take the same amount of actions against you. Yeah.
Yeah. And I would say that you can play around Frozen in Fear sometimes. You don't have to actually move or evade or what's the other one?
Fight, yeah.
That's it? Fight, yeah. You can do other things that turn and then try to pass the test.
Yeah. I agree, though, with the thing is that, like, they're probably less scary. I mean, like, for rogues, Frozen in Fear always can be, you have to just be aware of it. You need to, like, plan around it. But at the same time, I think you're also planning around Ancient Evils, right? Like, how do I get ahead of the game? And because that's how Ancient Evil punishes me, right? Sick. All right. Next one here, we got more Investigator starter decks or more Return to boxes?
What a good question. It's almost like, do I want more player cards or do I want more campaign? And I think I would like to see more campaign. And maybe it's return to the campaigns that we already have. Maybe it's some other version of that. But I sometimes feel like I play a lot of Arkham and I know a lot of the scenarios really well, that I need them to be shaken up a little bit more. Whether that's in the original design or with Return Twos. I like them. I get that. I think it's awful that they're just not available. I think that's a shame for the community. And for us as content creators, too, it's hard to talk about and use these cards and say, well, sorry, you can't buy them.
Yeah. I'm at this point,
So,
anytime I talk about a Return to card, I'm like, just proxy it. Like, until it's printed somewhere else, like, you should just print it on paper and play with it. Yeah.
So I'm not like rushing out to get more player cards or more Investigator starter decks, because I think the 5 that we have are really good. They're good for new players to just inject a bunch of cards into their card pool. And don't know if I need to see that again. I also don't know how many more cycles are left, right? We're running out of Investigators. So clearly they're making up new Investigators. That's not a problem. But I think I'm more interested right now, actually, personally, in the campaigns and the scenario designs that the especially new design team comes up with. I was very impressed with Hemlock Vale's encounter sets. And I kind of want to see more of that right now.
Yeah. I mean, I also like, because they're obviously making parallel Investigators. I would love, maybe, even this bending the more Return to boxes a little bit. Instead, just, as you're saying, just, variety, right? So it's like, here is a print and play of a different location for each of the edge of your starting locations. You can print them and randomize one of them, right? Like at the start of the scenario, right? So the shelter's values may have changed. The effects on them may change. They still give the same item, right? If they give you an item, but what you go into the scenario, the cart location can change from it. Like a small thing like that, I think would also inject a good chunk of replayability. Because I think, unfortunately, even though more Return to boxes would be sweet, they don't sell enough. Like expansions to expansions aren't a product that does it anymore.
Yeah, print and plays like what the Beard is doing for adding scenarios that are kind of part of the campaigns is also kind of a neat idea.
Yeah.
And maybe that would be stealing too much from what a fan has already done right now, but I really like that as a way to inject more variety into the existing campaigns.
Yeah. Man, that'd be actually kind of cool too. Just can you imagine a Dunwich scenario that you could just run instead of one of the ones? It's just hey, do this one instead of one of those. Just change your pace a bit, and you could be
exactly.
Never have to play this one again, or switch it to this one. That'd be neat. That would be really neat.
Yeah. I agree.
All right, we have one question left. We've made it to the last question. And I'm curious to see what you say about this one. Because I know there's a lot of people who have say their opinions online, but I've never actually like heard yours apart from like brief passing. So, more open world campaigns. This includes like open structure like Hemlock Vale, because I consider that one to be relatively open while being less open than Scarlet Keys, or more set order campaigns, which is pretty easy, right? Like knowing what the order is each time you play them.
That's a tough question. You're right. You've not probably heard me talk about this. So I think I want more open world campaigns that are more like Hemlock. They've reined it in a little bit more. I think the challenge with the open world campaigns has always been, how do you make your choices actually matter, right? Instead of being railroaded into a couple of set paths, you're promised this idea of pick anything. And unfortunately, sometimes if you just pick anything, you get something that doesn't work out very well with the players. And I know a lot of players probably complain about this because they made some choices that were bad. And when you don't, when you have something that's set order, you can never essentially veer from the path. I'm not a fan of some of the scenarios that basically it's in Scarlet Keys that you show up and they tell you, why did you come here?
Yeah.
I don't really understand why they need to print something that punishes you for making a choice that you probably wouldn't have known about either otherwise. So what Hemlock did, I think, is a lot better, giving you a couple of options for the ones you play during the day, and then you either choose the night ones or you don't. And it's not that it's not that you just choose them randomly. I think you're trying to follow a story, and they telegraph this reasonably well. If you want to follow these people's stories, you play these particular scenarios. And I think most people have done that okay. Sometimes I've heard people choose still the wrong scenarios because there are a few gotcha moments there too. But I'm okay with them focusing more on that and giving a good play experience for the rewarding your choices without punishing you too hard.
Yeah.
But I don't need to see like an 8 scenario campaign that is just on rails. Like that they don't need to do that. I think the boxes giving you all of the scenarios at once means that they can, give you a little bit more agency on what you're playing.
Hell yeah. I'm pretty similar because in my open world, when I talked about Scarlet Keys, when I talked about it 1 year later, my two issues with the structure was that I felt like the first location connected to London should be a scenario each direction you go. Just because then you don't have that thing where you said, like, we went to Rome our first time, and we were like, what is this is nothing, right? And, like, it's the same thing if you go to, I think, Iceland or something like that. And if you had it so that each one was a location, at least it would give you that feeling better, because there's a lot of feeling. And then I also hoped that Hemlock would kind of be like Dunwich, right? Where you choose the order that you play the scenarios, but the scenarios stay relatively the same. And I've only played it once, but I agree. I like the format a lot. And I also like how they scale the difficulty by changing the encounter cards depending on what day it is. I think that's like the day set thing for that is really cool.
Yeah, it's really interesting what they did with the campaign, making the day ones a lot easier. So it has that, like, the difficulty scales through which each day you're playing, but it also scales between the day and night, which makes it kind of fun. I think there's a theme that comes through when they give you some amount of choice, but at the same time, there's something that the designers are doing to change those scenarios as well. Yeah.
With all that said, though, I do want to see, like, even though you're right, the new boxes do make it so they don't need to be as on the rails, I do want to see, like, one thing that they can, like, control it from this design team just to see what they can do, and then they can go back to being a little bit more weird with it, because I just want to see, like, just what, because, like, even though, like, it is limiting, I think that the classic saying, right, restrictions breeds creativity, right? Like, it's just one of those things that, like, it's just what they can do with it. I think would be really interesting to see.
I wouldn't mind if they did something like Dark Matter,
yes,
right, where there's a lot of scenarios that have to play in a certain order, and then there's some choice in the middle.
Yep. Yeah, no, Dark Matter, I think, is like, there's a reason why it's so beloved, right? And I think a big reason that is that choice of scenarios 3, 4, and 5. It really just adds a lot to it.
And it's very well done. The challenge, again, I don't think they've always met this, is if you do things out of order, is there a reason for doing that, or is there just a correct way to do it? Or maybe it doesn't have to be like it's easier or more difficult. It just has to be something viable, a reason to choose that. And Dark Matter did this really well.
Yep. Sweet. Well, that's it. You survived the first this or that, so that's great. Yeah. I hope you enjoyed hearing Daniel's insights. I certainly did. I tried to figure out, like, guess what would Daniel say to each of these, and
how'd you do?
I think I did pretty all right. The only one I wasn't like confident on was the Investigator versus Return to, and the campaign format, because those I think are the ones that are most like generally open. But like I knew you would like. I felt like you would like range. I knew you like Big Clue Combo just because of what I've seen from you in the past. So it makes sense for that. Yeah.
And some of these things, if you interviewed me in about 2 weeks, I might have some different answers.
100%. That's how it works. There's a reason why Arkham is so good, and a big reason for that is that there's so much to talk about, so much of your perspectives and opinions to change, and that's why we love it.
And I love watching your retrospective videos that are, going back and saying, what did I think a year ago? And, what's changed since then? Because new investigators, new cards really can change your perspective on a lot of this stuff.
Yeah. Oh, like an example of even just like, it also just like, I call it like the idiot thing, where like, for some reason I was like, Devil is going to blow up in 3 turns every time you played it. Eric played it for the first time yesterday, and I was like, oh yeah, if you don't have health, it just sits here until you need it. Because I'm like, why did I think otherwise? All my other interpretations, like, that's the other thing too, is that the game is complex, and when you see something in action, it can just change it completely. Yeah. Sweet. All right, well, thanks for watching, everybody. If you enjoyed this format, let me know down in the comments, and if you have any this or that you want me to throw at other people, or alternatively, different content creators you want me to reach out for, let me know in the comments. And again, you should go check out Daniel's channel and subscribe if you haven't. And then other than that, thank you so much for watching. Daniel, thank you for joining me for this. I had a great time with it, and I'm glad you got to be the first. Yeah. So we'll see you all very soon. A huge thank you to all of our patrons for supporting the channel. Have a good one, and as always, GG's.